Hello, folks, and welcome back to Gearbox Podcast, your weekly dose of podcast. I'm Nick,
And I'm Moxi.
and today we're going to talk about the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez circuit in the beautiful Mexico City. But first of all, let's talk about what happened in the USGP. Moxie, back to you.
So I don't have to tell much about this race. There were a few highlights, a few remarkable highlights, which I'm going to mention right now. So let's talk about the Sainz DNF, the incident between him and Russell in the first sector, in the first lap, causing Sainz losing the first position and being in the last place, and of course him retiring from the race. Any thoughts on that, Nick?
Yeah, it was really devastating for Sainz. He had a pole position in a circuit that we didn't really expect Ferrari to go well. He did a unbelievable lap on Saturday's quali in Q3, and it's quite unbelievable to see him losing a chance for some good points, maybe a fight for P2 for P2 in the drivers championship. So it's really bad to see that he's really struggling again, just like he had a DNF in Japan. He had a DNF in the US. Hopefully, he recovers from this bad luck he has. But yeah, I really want to talk about what Russell. Uh, since Singapore, he has a really attacking strategy. He is really aggressive on the whole field of the track. What's your opinion on that, Moxie?
Well, indeed, Russell got what he deserved, 5 times second penalty, but the fact is that doesn't really change what happened on the race. Sainz lost a lot of positions, and I think that Russell should have been given more, a penalty that would cost him a lot of places and points because 5 times second penalty, yeah, it's like three positions, so still he would have gained points on that. But yeah, it's really unfortunate to see Sainz losing positions and his bad luck. And yeah, I hope that in the future he's going to achieve what he deserves. So let's move on to Latifi losing his car control. I'm not going to say much about that. We really used to see Latifi doing this kind of stuff. So let's not
Yeah.
move further. Let's talk about Bottas DNF losing his car control in the third sector in lap 18. What's your opinion on that, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, that oversteer that he had on that second last corner was really devastating. Of course, he was going for a points finish after a long time because he's had much reliability issues. The car is not showing such a good pace like he was showing in the start of the season. So, in the whole race, you were saying, okay, Bottas is gonna go and get some points today, but unfortunately, he lost all chances for that oversteer. Costed him the whole race. He ended up DNFing and he lost chances on getting some points for the championship and the constructors. Maybe he can get Alfa Romeo back some positions, but unfortunately, he DNF'd. He still is not getting some good results. He was up in the top 10 fighting the Mercedes at the start of the year, but now he's really struggling on finishing on the points. And not only that, he's really struggling on finishing a race, which is kind of impressive to see him going from hero to zero in the start to the end of the season. What's your opinion on that?
Indeed, we're seeing the Alfa Romeo drivers having trouble with the races quite frequently. I don't know what's going on with Alfa Romeo. Yeah, but yeah, it's really unfortunate to see Bottas DNFing as well. I thought that he would have brought some points to the Alfa Romeo team, but unfortunately that didn't happen. And of course, we see Zhou being in the 15th, in the 16th place, which means that they haven't brought any points to the Alfa Romeo team. Anyways, let's move on to the major thing that happened on this Grand Prix: the collision between Stroll and Alonso. Stroll DNF, Alonso Airborne, second sector in the in the lap 22. What an incident that was, Nick. Do you agree on that?
Yeah, let's just. I wanted to add that topic as well. You know, what a stupid move done by Lance Stroll there. He had such a good chance to have a good finish, but he went defensive in quite the last moment, causing him to have that DNF. He made collision with Alonso. Luckily, after such a huge collision, he went completely airborne. Alonso kept the car out of the wall completely and he continued with the race. Unfortunately, though, when the race finished, he was out of the points because he was given a 30-second time penalty. But 2 days ago, he lost that 30-second time penalty and he got back to P7, which I think he's really deserved that because he had a damaged car and he managed to be back on the points, which is quite impressive and it really shows the good Alonso that we are so nice to see back again. Hopefully, we see that again. But let's also add, because the amount of nostalgia that we had in this race in the USGP, Vettel just doing an impressive drive, especially on those last laps, overtaking on the last turn Kevin Magnussen for that P6 result. What do you think about that, Moxie?
Yeah, really impressive to see Vettel, gaining positions in the last moment. He showed that he's a really experienced driver. No matter what car he has shown that he's a really good driver. And of course, I'm really happy to see him being in such a good place, in the sixth place, and bringing points to Aston Martin, as we know that Stroll made that silly move and got disqualified in DNF, of course. Yeah, I'm really happy to see that Vettel is progressing and he ended this United States GP, experience in a really good way and showing what a talented and experienced driver he is.
Yeah,
So let's move on to yeah.
it's really bad to see Sebastian Vettel, leaving from Formula One and retiring from the sport. He has said on the press conference that he's not happy about um, his choice. Obviously, nobody is happy when he retires from this unbelievable experience, driving the dreams pretty much all day and all weekend. It's so nice, and he has said that he's now realizing his choice and what he's going to lose a big piece of his life. And unfortunately, nothing ever lasts forever, and he has to say goodbye to the sport. He has such a great history in this sport. He's a driver loved by everyone, and I really can't believe that we have to say goodbye to him this season.
I will really miss him. So let's move on to the next topic. Let's talk about the battle between Leclerc and Verstappen in lap 39. We saw that moment that Verstappen showed his experience and Leclerc couldn't do anything about that. He got overpassed really easily by Verstappen, and we can easily tell that Verstappen right now is more talented than Leclerc. What do you think about that, Nick?
Yeah, all the time that we've seen Leclerc and Verstappen, not only this season, but since Silverstone 2019, which I believe that was the first ever fight. We've seen such a great battles between them, and even though that Verstappen has a better car and a better consistency, you can see that Leclerc really has the talent to just fight for having a podium position or a win, and he's not going to let any chance Verstappen without a fight. So it's a huge spectacle to see them both fighting for a position, and it's so good for us that we are lucky to see this in our lives.
Yeah, totally. And let's talk about Verstappen's win, meaning that Red Bull finally won the Construction Championship. I mean, that was going to happen anyways. They had a really, a really big difference between them and Ferrari, so they were going to win the Constructors Championship. Now Verstappen is the champion of the Drivers' Championship and the second time world champion, and Red Bull are also champions of the Constructors Championship. What do you have to say about that, Nick?
Yeah, it's quite impressive to see after 9 years. Last time was 2013, where Red Bull won the drivers and constructors championship. Is really nice to see them accomplishing this, and I'm really happy that they've put in so much effort in a team and they've managed to get a really good result with Max Verstappen, Checo Perez, and the whole Red Bull team. Now, a really important thing is that Max Verstappen has officially equaled Michael Schumacher and Sebastian Vettel on 13 wins in a season. And now, Max Verstappen, with three races to go and with a pole position in the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, he has really good hopes on accomplishing a 14 win season and surpassing the great German drivers. What do you have to say about that, Moxie?
Remember saying to you that he was not going to accomplish and he was not going to surpass Schumacher's record, but yeah, I have to correct myself. He totally proved himself to be a really good driver and equaling this record. And as you said, he has opportunities to overpass and to surpass to this record, as there are three Grand Prix remaining, and he has shown that he's really good and a really experienced driver. So yeah, he's going to get, of course, he's going to get a win at these three Grand Prix, at one of them at least. So I think that he's going to surpass this record. Back to you, Nick.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have a great spectacle till the end of the season, just like every time, even though that the constructors and the driver standings have come to a close. Of course, we have the P2 fight for the drivers and Alpine versus McLaren. Obviously, Alpine with the better car, with the better team, but really luck hasn't gone on Alpine's side this season, showing that McLaren might have some chances. But it's going to be quite a spectacle till the last lap of Abu Dhabi, I believe, to see who will be crowned a winner for P4 in the constructors and for P2 for the drivers' standings. So I really can't wait. But now I think we should go for the Mexico City Grand Prix. What do you think, Moxie?
Yeah, this is going to be a really entertaining race in Mexico. It has, it's a really interesting Grand Prix with its corners, with its, turns. It reminds me somehow the USGP, but it's not the same. It has, though, a few things that the USGP has. For example, the low corners, the turns, and we're going to see. I hope that we're going to see a really entertaining race. So let's talk about the Mexico GP. Let's say to you guys that the number of laps that are going to take place is 71, and the second length is 4,304 meters. A really big race, a race that is going to give us and is going to show us who is going to be in the second place in the Drivers' Championship and who's going to win the fourth place in the Constructors Championship. The lap record was set by Valtteri Bottas in 2021, with him making the fastest lap ever, which is 1 hour and 17 minutes and 774 seconds. So the driver with the most wins in Mexico GP is Max Verstappen with 3 wins in 2017, 2018 and 2021, and following Lewis Hamilton with 2 wins. So, do you have to add anything else, Nick, to this?
Yeah, the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez is a really fun track. Just like you said, it has everything, just like Circuit of the Americas. It has slow corners, medium corners, high speed corners, and lots of straights. So every team can focus on something that they are good at. And let's also add that it's the highest altitude circuit in the whole calendar with 2,000 meters from sea level, and the teams are running a downforce just like in Monaco, but they can reach speeds like Monza, showing that the air is not that strong, just like in low sea level circuits. So they can be fast in corners and they can be also really fast in straights. So it's really interesting to see where the teams really focus. Are they going to focus on what they're good at, or are they going to try and do something pioneering? It's going to be quite an interesting race, of course. And I think we should now add about the qualifying session. What do you have to tell us about, Moxie?
So the qualifying session as we're recording has been completed. The first place and the pole position was set by Max Verstappen, who is going to start from P1 this Sunday, and following George Russell and Lewis Hamilton in the second and third place. So we have noticed, and we all notice that something is going on with Mercedes. I mean, they have done a lot of improvements on their car, and that's obvious as we see that these 2 drivers are gaining positions and being in the top 3. What do you have to tell us about that, Nick?
Yeah, Mercedes obviously have found a really nice piece. So I guess they have brought some good upgrades, and they've shown this in the Mexico GP and in the US GP, where Lewis Hamilton was so close on getting that win, but unfortunately he couldn't. But yeah, we can see the Mercedes are getting back on their feet, something that they weren't really able to do in the start of the season. But now we can see that they might be back on the constructor fight and maybe the driver fight on the next season. Something quite impressive is that unlike last year's Mexico GP qualifying and many years ago, the qualifying laps were not that close together, with the gap to first and second being at 300 thousandths of a second, with Max Verstappen bringing a remarkable lap. But unfortunately, the Mercedes weren't that fast to keep a close lap to him. What do you have to say about that, Moxie?
I remember watching the qualifying session, and at the last turn of this qualifying, of the third qualifying, Russell was really disappointed as he could have gained the first position, and he was really disappointed and really sad. Yeah, I mean, Mercedes are back on their feet, as you said before. I think that they're going to have a major impact on next year's Formula One season, as they're coming back and really strongly, and I really strongly believe that they are going to they're going to be contenders of the Constructors Championship the next season. And I think that Max Verstappen is going to deal with the Mercedes, with the 2 Mercedes, having them at the back of the car. So yeah, he's going to be in a really difficult place. but I think that he's a really experienced driver, and I think that he will deal with them really well. Back to you, Nick.
Yes, so the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, a 3DRS zone circuit, which the drivers can really well use for overtakes on the race. 17 corners, and it's quite an old circuit, believe it or not, which hasn't changed a lot. First Grand Prix was in 1963, and it's been in the calendar not so many times because they have switched off the track because they've said it's not right for Formula One, but it's back after many years, after being back again in 2015, and since then we have enjoyed the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez again with that beautiful stadium sector in turns 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, powering up the drivers in a quite remarkable atmosphere, showing that this is Mexico. What do you have to say about that, Moxie?
I really like this Grand Prix. It's a Grand Prix. It's a really old Grand Prix, despite being absent for a few years, as it was. I don't know what's the reason. And the Grand Prix came back in 2016, and since then we have a lot of good memories for this Grand Prix. We have seen a lot of fights. We have seen a lot of battle between between the drivers, and it's a Grand Prix that I will always remember if someday it decides, to be absent. But I think that they have renovated their contract, and they're going to be part of the Formula One until 2025. So we're going to see a lot of good fights the upcoming years. So, do you have anything to tell us about the predictions of today's race?
Yeah, so let's just add that since the turbo hybrid era, since 2015, that the circuit was back in Formula One, the pole sitter has never won since 2015 the race, which really shows hopes for other teams like Ferrari or Mercedes. And of course, such a long straight in the first sector, which shows that being in the pole position really doesn't help you a lot because you can easily lose that position. I believe that I think that George Russell will get first place and get his first ever win with Lewis Hamilton in P2. I think we will see our first ever win for Mercedes, and not only that, but a 1-2 for Mercedes. Third place will go to Max Verstappen after not such a good result, of course, because of the pole position, which isn't a really good luck for the drivers in this circuit. I think that Mercedes will have the power and the strategy and the techniques to get the 1-2. Fourth place, I think it will go to Esteban Ocon, and fifth place to Carlos Sainz. Of course, Carlos Sainz has just like Charles Leclerc, not such a good feeling for the circuit, as they were really all over the place in the free practice and the qualifying. I really don't know how they're gonna do in Sunday's race. I don't know if they can change any settings that they can help them for today, but I really want to see what's going to happen in the first turn on the first lap. What's going to happen between Max Verstappen and the two Mercedes. I really wonder what's going to happen after that. If we're going to see any crashes, any incidents, it's going to be quite a spectacle. What do you think, Moxie?
So my predictions about the race, I think that Checo Perez is going to be in the first place. I think he's going to prove himself as a really good driver, and I think that because he is going to compete in his birthplace, in the place where he was born, he is going to overpass all the cars and gain the first place. I think that in the second place is going to be George Russell, and in the third place, Lewis Hamilton. I think Verstappen is going to crash between a car. I don't know why, but I just have that feeling, and he's going to be disqualified of the race. And I think in the fourth place is going to be Carlos Sainz, and in the fifth place is going to be Charles Leclerc. Don't forget that Carlos Sainz has taken the fifth place, and in the seventh place is Leclerc. They had a lot of difficulties in the qualifying session as the car was drifting a lot, and that's why they took these positions. That's pretty much it about my predictions. Back to you, Nick.
Yeah, I think we have set up predictions, pretty much said everything, and it's time to say goodbye to you all. We hope you have a nice time watching the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in the beautiful Mexico City Grand Prix this year as well. So it's been Nick,
And it's been Moxi.
and we'll see you for the next one. See ya.
See you guys.